tell you, explain it to you of how much of a wage increase you need to get to survive this inflation that we're going through. And I'll share a link with you that you can actually check it for yourself. And it's off the charts. It's absolutely insane when you're connecting. Okay, we're live. Have I got everything live? Right, we're live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So it's a big live today. I'm just here in the office, waiting to meet a client. And this came into the news during this week that the Irish Central Bank slams Bitcoin. This is the headlines in Irish newspapers, okay? Unbacked crypto likened to a Ponzi scheme by Irish Central Bank Governor as market climbs from post-crash low, okay? That was the headline on the Irish Examiner. Now this is putting out information because most people don't have time to do a deep dive in this stuff, okay? So all they can do is absorb clickbait newspaper headlines. I don't know where to start with it. I just think it's unfortunate, but I'd like to get, I'd like to get just numbers out to you because numbers are math and you can't argue with math, okay? And then I'd like to invite Gabriel McAuliffe, the Irish Governor of the Central Bank, to Bitcoin Ireland 2023, which is on the 20th of May, to come and actually put a little bit of work into this thing. Just put 1 day's work into this thing. And I think you'll understand that you have to disconnect Bitcoin from crypto, okay? And that's where we go wrong, is we connect the two, all right? You need to disconnect crypto from Bitcoin and understand that Bitcoin is just a solution for normal people, okay? The common man. And I'd like to start just by giving you a little example of a client that I dealt with this week. And there's hundreds and thousands of millions of people like this out there, all right? The way our money system works, it's predatory on the majority. What I mean by that is the majority of people don't understand how money works and we just save money. I've done it for half my life. I lived in a caravan. I was really poor. It was only when I started to understand how money works, I was like, the last thing rich people do or wealthy people do is keep money. So I'll just give you an example. I met with a client this week. I won't give you any personal information, but I'll just say the client got 50,000 euros in the year 2000, okay? And being like all of us, when we're not financially educated, before we're financially educated, he put it in the bank. And he was like, that's great, that's a night, remember back in 2000, guys, in 2008 and 9, you could buy apartments for 30 grand, 25 grand. So 50 grand was a lot of money back then, okay? But this guy doing what he thought he was doing, he was prudent. He was like, I'm gonna save for my future. That could be a pension for me, that 50,000, okay? That could be for my kids to maybe buy an apartment in 20 years or so, all right? We met yesterday and he still has the 50,000 in savings, but the purchasing power of that 50 grand has been heavily diluted by how many 100%, okay? Or how many percent has that purchasing power of that 50 grand lost over the last 23 years? You know, effectively, his 50,000 has been stolen from him in purchasing powers because he used to be able to buy an apartment with it. You know, which apartments today, if you want an apartment, what's an apartment? Where's the cheapest apartment in Dublin? 200 grand? So that means 2/3 of his money has been literally stolen from him. And this is why it's predatory on the majority, on the masses, because people do not understand money, okay? And inflation is like a silent secret tax and people don't realize the damage that it does to their wealth. Now that was in the good times when we had low inflation. Now we've got high inflation. Like I think we've got double-digit inflation, although the official figures are around 8%. I don't think that's true because my cost of living has certainly rose more than 8% and I'm sure yours has too, okay? So where do you start with this? It's clear that Gabriel hasn't studied Bitcoin. He's thrown his eye over a little bit of crypto and seen things go bad and just came to a conclusion. But my problem is, okay, there's a hard and fast rule, and I'd like you to share this, okay? Because mainstream aren't putting this out. They're putting out Bitcoin bad, and they're wrecking the Irish population, okay? I incentivize people to understand about Bitcoin, to learn about Bitcoin, right? Not to go and dump your money in without knowing what you're doing. I don't teach people or encourage people to do that. I'm like, learn about the thing, understand the thing, and then you will know how to act, okay? It's up to us, the community, try and push this content out there and give people the right information so they can make a better decision. It's very frustrating when this happens, simply because there's a hard and fast rule with Bitcoin. Anyone who's dollar cost average into Bitcoin, okay, is in a better financial position than they were when they didn't. Now, dollar cost averaging, I won't go into the technicals of this, but it just means buying regularly, a small amount regularly. Think of it as a long-term savings vehicle. Bitcoin is another hard and fast rule that has never broken. okay? Since it's been created in 2008, anyone who's owned Bitcoin for 4 years, who's used it as a saving technology to save their money for 4 years, has increased their wealth, okay? Or they are wealthier, all right? Because it beats inflation. It beats inflation by a hell of a lot. It has. And to me, all Bitcoin is just a vehicle for the world, normal people like us, to use to save our wealth. Somewhere we can just put our money where there's no risk. You're trusting maths and code. You don't have to bet on stock markets, okay? You don't have to give to money managers where human decisions screw up, okay? You just want to put your value, okay? You go to work, you work your job, you try and build some wealth for your family, so you can have a better life and a better future, and you just want to protect that wealth. So like my client had the 50 grand that he was hoping his kids could buy a house with, or a little apartment with, in 20 years, and he could give it to them. But his wealth wasn't protected. It was heavily diluted. And the purchasing power of that 50,000 is nothing like it was in the year 2000. And to me, like, Bitcoin is many things, but it's just a store of value. It's just a savings technology. There's loads more complexities that we add on it, but simply it's just a savings technology for the masses, for countries that aren't as fortunate as us, that have good banking systems. It's a life both for them, and then just for the average Irish person who doesn't understand money, doesn't understand how to invest. That you can't leave your money in the bank or it loses value. You've got to get out there and take risk with it. You got to invest into companies. You got to, you just got to do something with it. You got to buy property. Bet on the property market, and then we see how that happens. It blows up, and then because normal people can't manage that, and then they end up in bankruptcy for years. I know people who are still in bankruptcy from 2008 from just trying to speculate to keep their money. So Bitcoin is just a simple vehicle that allows people to keep their purchasing power and keep their wealth. Now, I want to give an example of this, because I think that this governor has a duty of care, all right? And my first experience when I seen negligence on a duty of care, and that's a strong word, and this is only my opinion, okay, was like, a lot of you guys know my story. I broke my back back in 20 years ago, whatever it was. I rebuilt my spine. I spent thousands of hours educating myself on health and strength and how to rebuild my spine. And then out in the fitness business, went deep down that rabbit hole and learned everything about that. And then it was like everything I was taught in college, in fitness college, was food pyramid and high carb diet, low fat diet. And then when I started to actually learn, I was like, no, the science has evolved. It's like, yeah, we thought that was the way back in the 70s, but like now we figured out that was terrible. That's a really bad way for a human to eat. Yet when I went to visit my doctor, they were still giving that advice. I'm like, in the 70s we were at that, but the science moved on. We realized we got it wrong, and that a high carb, a highly processed carbohydrate diet, low in fat, is really unhealthy for a human. And I'm like, Mr. Doctor, like, why haven't you re-educated yourself? I know that you're a 50-year-old man and you probably trained in whatever amount of decades ago, and this is true, but the science has moved on, and surely you have a duty of care to re-educate yourself and stay up to speed, okay? And I think it's the very same here with the central bank governor, is that, if it was me, I always have a duty of care to my clients, that I give them, in my consulting, I have a fiduciary responsibility to give them the best advice that they can get. So I have to keep myself re-educated so I can always give them the best advice in their best interest. And that's why I've got over 100 Google reviews, and we've trained literally thousands of people, and we've thousands of success stories and testimonials, because I have a duty of care to always re-educate myself, okay? You'll notice when my business first started, we called ourselves Crypto with Dinny. And then after a couple of years in the business, I was like, well, all I'm doing is on Bitcoin, and I warn people about the dangers of crypto. So I need to rebrand. I need to say I was wrong, and change my position, and I'm okay with doing that. And that's fine, okay? But the Gabriel McAuliffe, I think, has a duty of care to put the time into Bitcoin and study it. Because as most people who have studied the space enough, like, Bitcoin doesn't care. It's just going to continue to monetize and suck value out of everything. Saying Bitcoin is a Ponzi, okay? Like, when you understand traditional finance, that is an absolute Ponzi scheme. It relies on confidence and trust, and it relies on more coming in. Our pension system is a Ponzi. It is a genuine Ponzi, in that we're relying on the payouts are coming from the people who are coming in. People who are getting paid out today are getting paid by people like me who are paying into our pensions today. Like, it is an actual Ponzi. Calling Bitcoin unbacked is just untrue, okay? The euro is unbacked, the dollar is unbacked. That's truth, okay? Although other people sit in this office and they think that their money is backed by gold, and it's just not true. Bitcoin is a backed currency. If you want to call it a currency, I just call it digital storage, or digital value, or digital scarcity. Bitcoin is backed by energy, in that it takes energy to create Bitcoin. It takes no energy to create a euro, okay? You know, the value of a euro, €1 does not cost €1 to create, okay? But the value of Bitcoin, there's a massive cost to create it, and that's why it is a backed currency. It's backed by energy, just like physical gold is backed by energy. All right, what allows gold to retain its value is that if you want to, or anyone wants in the whole world, the free market wants to create more gold and bring it into the market. And remember, more gold coming into the market devalues anyone who owns gold, because it dilutes the supply of it. It makes their gold worth less. But what protects the value of their gold is that it's difficult to create the gold. You've seen the programs on telly, all the machinery and men and hours and manpower that goes into manufacturing and processing and creating gold. So there's a real world cost to it. And Bitcoin is the very same. There's a real world cost to it. It's backed by energy, just like gold is backed by energy. But it's just a digital version of it, okay? Just like a CD, and we have Spotify. We had the physical thing, the CD, and we have the digital thing, Spotify. And the digital thing is better, okay? It's just like we had, here's an office. Normally there'd be a filing cabinet sitting behind me. You know, a physical thing, you could go over and touch it. We don't use them anymore because we've got digital storage. We use the cloud, okay? So just like gold has been a proven store of value for thousands of years, Bitcoin is just a digital version of it. And it's an order of magnitude more than that, but as a basic concept, it's a backed asset, okay? What else did I want to say there? So yeah, my invitation is to Gabriel and anyone from the Irish Central Bank is to come to Bitcoin Ireland 2023. We've got a day's worth of presentations. We've got industry experts. We've got Greg Foss zooming in, who's a bond trader with 35 years of experience of managing risk. You know, so there's not mugs talking about this. Well, there is a mug. I'm doing a presentation at the beginning talking about how to build a Bitcoin pension. But we've got very sophisticated, very intelligent, highly educated speakers at this event. Okay, and I'd urge anyone in the central bank, reach out to me, say, Dinny, I'm interested in coming, and we'd be delighted to get you there and teach you a little bit about this thing, because at the end of the day, Bitcoin doesn't care. Okay, it's not going to affect Bitcoin, but it will affect the Irish public if they have zero exposure to it. Okay, for me, you guys know my story, you know the story of a lot of our people. It's saving in Bitcoin for 4 years, and there's no guarantee that that continues. Okay, but there is a guarantee that saving in the euro, you continue to lose your value. Now I want to finish by showing you your wages and how your wages have to keep up with inflation. And you can tell me, did you get a pay rise? Because we've had inflation since last year. So technically you should have got these pay increases, and you can tell me if you got them, and that'll let you know if you're keeping up with inflation or if your quality of living is going down, if your purchasing power is going down, or if your wealth has been stolen from inflation. I'll share this in the comments. Drop a comment in if you're enjoying this video, guys. And if you do, and you're in the space, please give it a share, push it out there to more people, copy the link, share, tag your friends in it. But most people are only reading these clickbait headlines, okay? And we can see now it's getting harder and harder and harder to stay ahead, and it's only going to continue. So if you're on minimum wage, I googled what minimum wage is, it's 22,916, and we continue with our inflation at about 5%, okay, from when it started. You would need to be earning 30 grand in 5 years just to keep up with inflation. Excuse me. So what's that? That's 7 grand. What's 7 divided by 5? It means last year you should have got about a €1,200 increase in your wages. So if you're on minimum wage, did the minimum wage go up by €1,200 per annum last year? And the answer is it didn't. Okay? So that means your purchasing power is less by that amount. Okay? If you're on 35,000 a year, if that's your average salary, okay, within 5 years, and remember, I'm putting in inflation at 5%. Our inflation, anyone who believes inflation is 5% isn't spending their money. They're obviously living at home and mommy and daddy are paying for everything for you. Okay? Inflation is much higher than 5%, but let's just say 5% for 5 years. If you're on 35 grand a year, you need to be on 45 grand by the end of, in 5 years time, just to keep up with your cost of living. So that means, guys, that last year, because we've been in this for a year, you should have got a 2 grand salary raise. So anyone watching who's on around 35 grand a year, if you got 2 grand this year and you're going to get 2 grand next year and 2 grand the year after that, you're doing okay. And if you got 2 grand last year, you're keeping up with inflation. If you didn't, you're losing. Okay, you're losing your purchasing power. Inflation is hurting you. And that's what Bitcoin was created in the great financial crisis. Okay, when we made the decision to bail out banks and print money and flood the system with money, and basically people who own euro, like my client who sat here with 50 grand, his savings got heavily devalued. My savings got heavily devalued. Okay, if you're on 50k a year, suffering 5% inflation, you need to be on 64 grand. 23, 4, 5, 6, by 2027. So what's that? You need a 14 grand increase in salary just to keep up. Now maybe you'll get it, but maybe you won't. Generally this hurts the people on the lower salary bracket because it's not as frequent that they get the pay raises. They can sort of stay in the low bracket for a long time. The higher earners do sort of get up the chain and get their salary raises. So that's why this system is predatory on people on the lower income, lower earners. All right, and that's why Bitcoin is a solution to us, the people. All right, it's not a solution to the bankers at the very top. It's a solution to the people at the very bottom, and that's why I'm passionate about educating it. And full disclosure, I own Bitcoin. I'm a holder of Bitcoin. I see Bitcoin as a commodity. I don't push other crypto assets. I just teach people about Bitcoin. I'll teach people about crypto if they want to know and all the risks that come with it. But Bitcoin's very simple. Everyone can understand Bitcoin, and I believe Bitcoin helps everyone. I believe your education is the most important thing about Bitcoin, is getting educated about it and learning about it, not just dumping money in and trying to get rich. Unfortunately, because we're in hard times, we gamble because we're like, well, I'm in a bad situation. I just want to try and get lucky on this or get lucky on that. So I'll risk my money. So we take more risk than we should. But we're not the only ones doing that. The people at the top of our system are having to take more risk. That's why we're seeing these blow-ups. That's why we're seeing banks in America get into trouble. And that seems to only getting legs. So it's really important that we pay attention to Bitcoin, in my opinion, and that we learn about Bitcoin. I believe Bitcoin is the solution to our problems. For me and a lot of clients that we've trained over the years ring me frequently every week to say, Dinny, getting involved in this thing was the single best thing I've ever done. Okay, and I'll just finish with a little example of math, because Gabriel will tell you, since the big crash and you lost all your money, okay, if you dollar cost average into Bitcoin, which just means you bought a little bit of Bitcoin at a regular amount, okay, and you've done this since Bitcoin was at 69k, so you bought at the very top of the last cycle, the very top, and you dollar cost average all the way today. Let's say every month you just said, I'm going to build a little pension this, I'm going to save 50 euros a month in it, okay? Well, today your savings are up about 17% in Bitcoin terms, all right? The money that you didn't save, that you left in the euro, is down. Inflation has been eating away at that, its purchasing power, for the last 2 years. So that's just what I want to finish with. In the bad times, as we go through a bear market, Bitcoin is still being the highest performing asset, and it's the highest performing asset this year, beating everything, beating the stock market, beating gold, beating property. Like, how can these people say these clickbait headlines and push that information out into the mainstream is just beyond me. And that's why I urge them to go down and do some education on it. It does take a lot to understand Bitcoin. I'm happy to jump on a call anytime with any central bank employee and answer any question they have. That's what I do. That's what I've done for years. Guys, if you like this video, hit the like button. It'll help the algorithm. Hit the share button. Try and get this content out. Bitcoin Ireland 2023 is on the 20th of May. The event's almost sold out, so it'll be awesome to see you there. We have a full day of speakers. I still have more to announce. There's so much people coming and wanting to do stuff. We've got Zaprite, our title sponsor. So it's going to be a fantastic event. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone at it and just going through all various different aspects of Bitcoin. We have people talking about Bitcoin and the pensions. We have people talking about Bitcoin macroeconomics. We have people talking about business and Bitcoin. I'm doing a presentation on beginner Bitcoin and building a Bitcoin pension, but it's a full day's event. It's from 9:30 to 6 p.m. and then we have an after party after it. So it'd be awesome to see you there. You can get the ticket on Eventbrite. Just jump onto Eventbrite, and if you want me to share that little wage calculator thing, I will just share it here, and you can play around with figures. You think inflation is 10%, plug it in and see how much pay rise you need to get. It'll really shock you, and that's why we need to pay attention to this thing, because just like compound interest, which is something that I focused on when I was living in a caravan, I decided, right, I'm going to get rich, I'm going to start learning. I remember reading books on compound interest, and I was like, that's the key. I just have to compound my wealth and compound my knowledge, and I'm going to be able to get out of the situation. But on the flip side, inflation is the opposite of that. It's so destructive. Just like compound interest can make you a millionaire by 40 if you use it, it can just destroy your wealth your whole life. No matter how hard you work, you just have to work harder for less, harder for less, harder for less. And it's so wealth destructive, and it preys on people on the lower income brackets. Guys, anyway, I'm quite passionate about this stuff. Push the content out there. Any questions, leave them in the comments. And looking forward to meeting all of you guys who are coming to Bitcoin Ireland 2023 on the 20th of May, which is very soon. Guys, have a super awesome day. And for now, I'll just say Dinny out. Thanks for being here, and try and share the content with as many people as we can. If anyone knows Gabriel, send them this video. Thanks, guys. Dinny out.
Okay.